This is Teresa Weatherspoon, better known as Teaspoon, and you're watching Real Fans, Real Talk.
Live from the can. Vibe the can.
This is Real Fans, Real Talk. Real fans, real talk. We as real as you thought. Real fans.
What's going on? Welcome to another live edition of Real Fans, Real Talk. This is a part two because we had some unfinished business with this particular basketball legend here. Was 88 points in the game. Just saying, throwing it out there. But we do got some things we're gonna get to. Thank you guys so much. This is crazy because this is the most I have been hit up about a guest returning to the show so that we could finish the interview and get all of these questions out the way. So I'm excited. I know Eric's excited. Let me just introduce my co-host, my brother, Eric Sanchez, aka Legend in Two Games.
What's really good, bro? As you mentioned, the comment section the last couple of weeks, it's been split between actual topics and talking points and then asking when Valerie was coming back. Everybody wanted to know when you were coming back to finish up the interview. So now we have it. And as you can see, the comment section is already lighting up as we get started tonight.
You got they're scholars, they're ready, they don't want just sports. These are scholars. That's a great way to put it. Analyze the game, we theorize the game.
And they have a lot of questions. Miss Valerie, still welcome back to Real Fans, Real Talk for part two. Hope you're well.
It's good to be. I am very well, and how I roll, you guys. I have to get in the zone. I prepare for everything like I'm an athlete still. It's kind of a bad habit. So I was wondering if we could do our jam session just a minute. We invoke all that energy, quiet down all the craziness that's going on in my head, and hopefully, we let something other than ourselves kind of guide this conversation, if that's okay. I've got my phone. Let's get into that zone. Okay, I think we're ready to do that 100-point game today, instead of just, getting out of my zone. 88, take it over to, the 100 mark today. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Yep. There we go.
You guys you still in that zone, man. That's what it does, huh? I see you wiping your tears. It's like you were in a different level right there. You were in a different.
You know what it is? Because sometimes I want to close my eyes, but then I don't want to close my eyes, so I don't want people to think we just falling asleep on the air. So I try to go back and forth. But I am definitely ready to get to it. Actually, I want to start today with the ABL, the championships. Talk to us about your experience playing in the ABL.
Well, it's kind of interesting you say that because March 11th was the first championship game, the first championship we won. That's next year, though. It'll be 30 years. Well, that sounds. I'm only 29, but it'll be 30 years. Why are you guys laughing like that? It'll be 30 years next year that the first ABL championship was won tomorrow. And I can remember it like it was yesterday, the excitement about it. Of course, we won it against Dawn Staley and the Richmond Rage at the time. They eventually became the Philadelphia Rage. But the whole atmosphere behind the ABL was electrical when it started. It started with that 1996 Olympic team. And you know, we thought that that was going to be the league we'd be talking about today, but of course that didn't happen. But I think you still see the remnants of the ABL wherever you go with the WNBA. And it was just a historical event, you know, not, you know, the people that were able, I was able to do ABL and WNBA, so that's extra special. But the ABL was definitely unique in the way it was, you know, addressing topics that were important to women. That the WNBA and the collective bargaining agreement right now, and they're still trying to work that thing out 30 years later. And we had it. I mean, we had ownerships of teams, right? Each player had stock in the team they played for. And the last year, because they were trying to raise money, you could actually own a team. And so I remember I put together a team. We were going to, we had a agreement on the Atlanta team. And that's, you know, now we're talking about the Unrival and all these other things going on. But the ABL was way ahead of its time. So, again, it was unique in the sense that it really did look out for players, and it looked out for their futures as well off the court.
So all right, the transition from the ABL to the WNBA, was it at all similar to, I guess, the ABA going to the NBA?
You know what, Trip? That's a good question. It was similar in the sense that the NBA knew that the guys that were in the ABL was so, like, they were the best players. I mean, Artis Gilmore, Dr. J, you know, these were some of the most flashiest players. And the NBA was kind of, you know, to kind of straight lace, kind of do it, you know, a certain way. And they knew in order to make the league explode, from what I understand, I shouldn't really be talking about this because I haven't studied it that well, but they knew that would improve the NBA. Whereas with the WNBA, it wasn't about trying to connect the two. It was about trying to eliminate the ABL, which had all the best players. And so it was a little different, but at the same time, there's some similarities.
Go ahead. Let me pull up.
No, I was about to say, yeah, because there were some questions in here I wanted to get to as well. But yeah, we'll start with that one right there.
Okay, shout out to Carter. Carter says, Cheryl Miller, did you play against or with her ever, and talk about her impact on the women's game? You're a little older, right? Well, she just turned 29, so that would probably
Carter, that's a terrible approach.
Yeah,
when you speak to
Okay,
a woman.
he's just feeling too comfortable with himself today.
Yeah,
He's feeling a little too. No, I'm just kidding. But that's a great question. Cheryl Miller, I do know Cheryl Miller. I did not play. She was on in the national team circuit when I was playing during the summer, but she ended up hurting her knee. I think she maybe tore her AC. I can't remember exactly what the injury was, and that kind of barred her from playing, you know, in the WNBA as well. But of course, Cheryl Miller had a great impact on the game. But that whole USC team, right? If you think about Cynthia Cooper was on that team, Cheryl Miller, you think about the McGee twins. I mean, nobody talks about the McGee twins, and they were phenomenal. I mean, they were just like that whole team. I would put them up against any, you know, college women's team as the team. And their character, their personality. Cheryl Miller had a personality that's larger than life. And Cynthia Cooper, I just saw them on some podcast, and they were kind of talking about each other. And it made me laugh because Cynthia Cooper is legitimately crazy. Like, and she'll let you know when she's talking about it. Like, she'll fight her own players on her own team. She had that happen. And I remember a couple of times in Italy, you know, we were in we called it the Wild Wild West because everything was going on there. And she had that personality, and she was talking about how her and Cheryl Miller had to learn how to adapt to each other. I think Coop was either from, I thought she was from Compton, but she might be from Watts, but one of those, you know.
Yeah.
And then Cheryl Miller came out of a more suburb, I guess, situation. And so the two of them had the same type of craziness to them that you need to win championships. And then if you put Pam McGee, if you know Pam and Paula, they had the same type of crazy, and it worked. And so Cheryl Miller, you know, she was scoring 100 points in high school, and her name was out there. And of course, with her brother coming up after her, Reggie, that definitely brought attention because the women's game always seems to need some type of gimmick. You know, we can't just go solely on the game. You have to have some type of gimmick. And she was that when she came out. Did Lisa Leslie go to USC? She might have played after.
Go to LSU. Did she go to LSU?
No, I thought
No,
it was,
she
I thought
She
it was
went to
SC.
USC, didn't
Yeah,
she?
she went to SC.
Check it. You can
I'm gonna
Google
double
it.
check, but I
See, I'm gonna keep you guys check because see, you guys got to be knowing your
USC. I'm sorry.
USC.
Yeah.
I don't know if she played on the same team with that group there, but that's the kind of players they were putting out. You know, now they have Juju Watkins, but you know, USC was, and it put women's basketball on the map.
Yeah.
I don't like the last part of that question though. You are what's it say? You
Don't
are
even worry about
older,
that.
right?
Don't even get caught up in that. Don't even worry about that.
No,
Yeah.
I better take
Let me go to Pooh's question. Let me take Pooh's question. Shout out to Pooh. Pooh says, how was it celebrating the 163rd anniversary of Second Baptist Church / Christ Baptist Church with the presentation of your grandfather and wife Lavina? Excuse me.
Wow. First of all, the ancestors, it's, you know, of all the things that I've done basketball wise, I think the thing that I'm most proud of is that I was able to save my great-great-grandfather's medical office. It was up for commercial property. They're going to make a strip mall out of it, or Dunkin' Donuts or whatever. That was 20 years ago. And I was visiting and I petitioned the state of New Jersey to save that history. It's just a little place, but it was his medical office. He was a 19th century Black doctor in South Jersey, and they were going to knock it down. And I was able to have it saved. It became the New Jersey's first and only African-American site. And so my ancestors laid the way for me to do what I'm doing, whether it's basketball wise or whatever. And so this church, the Second Baptist Church of Burlington, New Jersey, my great-great-grand uncle, actually, it's not my great-great-grandfather. He was the brother of my great-great-grandfather. He founded this church in 1863, a month after the Emancipation Proclamation. And it's just amazing because he was enslaved for 40 years in the South in Alabama, made his way back up to New Jersey after he had been sold south. And the first thing he wants to do is to establish, you know, this church. And so it's history for me. 100 years from now, 200 years from now, 1,000 years from now, my records may not last. People may not know me as a basketball player, but they'll connect me to this history. So it's really important to me. And I was invited to celebrate the 163rd, and you should see the church. It's like so awesome. So I'm excited about this. So thanks for asking. It's important we keep our history going.
Yeah, shout out to the comment section. You know, they do their research.
I notice.
Squeezy says, Miss Still, basketball wise, what basketball players inspired you growing up?
Well, first of all, I had 5 older brothers that I tagged along with. My oldest brother, Sparky, he went to the University he had a scholarship to the University of Maryland, became the ACC's Defensive Player of the Year one year. My brothers Wendell and Gary got scholarships. My brother Art got a scholarship to the University of Kentucky. My brother Dennis went to the University of Alabama and then Loyola. And so they were my first heroes. And then, of course, after that, I'm in Philadelphia. I'm in the greater Philadelphia area. So there's none other than Michael Jordan, than Dr. J in the great Philadelphia 76ers. So that's who I kind of emulated. Women at that time weren't, you know, there weren't any TV games for women. And so since without a doubt, the Philadelphia 76ers and Dr. J was the person that I wanted to emulate.
Let me ask you this.
Matter of fact, because it's getting hot too. Look, I got matter of fact, I wore, look, that's straight. I got my Dr. J shirt on.
Shout out
my shirt on.
Dr. J.
I do, man. See how the energy when you're in that zone. I gotta come out of my shirt. Okay, sorry about that.
Watching or the players now, is there a player that you watch now and you say she got a little bit of my game in her?
No, no. As far as the game, it's so much different. I look at the game today and I swear I am so impressed. But you have to see it in context that these players, that's all they do 24/7. When we were coming up, we couldn't afford to have personal trainers, the type of athletic gear and all that kind of thing. These players are at such a level that it's crazy. And I'm not saying that, our game wasn't at a certain level, but it's different today. And if we had those same opportunities, I'm pretty sure the players then would have superseded what they even did with the limited technology and gear and all that kind of stuff. But no, I kind of watched. I like to keep people on their individual level. Everybody's different. You can't compare. That's like the GOAT issue. I don't compare because every player is different. Every person, and I have my players that I like though. Like I like Tessa Johnson. I like the Johnson & Johnson there at South Carolina with Dawn Staley's. I like is it Flo-J? Is her last name Johnson too? Is her last name Johnson?
Yeah,
I think it is.
Yeah,
I like the Johnsons. Her game is tight. And then my girl from South Jersey here, Hannah at Notre Dame. There's a few players, but when you see the level just across the board, I mean, it's impressive. I think so. What do you guys think?
I think the game has evolved so much. It's great to watch, but like you said, there's also that aspect of it where it's tough to compare it to its predecessors because, again, now the young men and young women, they get the personal trainers, they get to play ball 24 hours. They play year round now. Where our eras, you played whatever sport was in season, and you didn't have a choice to switch off because if it wasn't basketball season, you weren't going to really find teams, right? Unless you played in the street or you found a gym to play. And now a lot of these young men and women get to play all year round and work on their game. And I think it's beautiful to watch to see where the game has evolved to. But as you said, it's also very difficult to compare it with some of the advantages they have now.
Yeah, and I think the women's game for me, sometimes I'm just astounded by the talent, the precision. I mean, the game as far as the strategies and the passing and all that. Because people used to say I like to watch the women's game because it's more fundamental, and it you can say that kind of, but I think just the way women play now is so much different because they're allowed to. You don't have to. When we were coming up, you had to be a lady. First, and then because then you'd get that stereotype. Now people don't really care. It's so you just play like a player.
Yeah, I remember, in regards to when you're saying, the amount of time that you're playing basketball. I remember in the earlier years of the WNBA, I remember watching this special, and there was a couple of different WNBA players, and they were just talking about the jobs that they had during the off season.
Yeah,
because obviously, it's not even, with the salaries not nowhere near what they're getting right now in the earlier days, but it was so many of them just like, I'm working here in the off season, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So now, because of, the way the media is set up, you can really build your brand as a WNBA player, and you may not have to actually do anything else at this point if you know how to really work your PR and things like that. You can make a lot of money off the court to where it doesn't matter that, let's say, the WNBA season is maybe half the NBA season because there's a lot of money outside of the sport.
Yeah, and I think the other thing with that, when you talk about money, and I always come back to this because it can't be just about the money. Because how many athletes do we know, professional athletes, that make millions of dollars, and then the system is, I hate to say it's rigged against them, but they end up with nothing. They end up on the street, and it's not because they're not good people. Matter of fact, sometimes it's because they want to do the right thing, and they want to share their wealth. They want to make family and friends, share it. And in a capitalistic society, you can't have that. Like, you got to figure out how much you can hoard yourself, and then let everybody else just fall in their place. And so, the money is important, but I think the longevity. People are interested in my story now, not because of yes, to an extent, what I did basketball wise, but it's got to be something other than the basketball that keeps you going, and it's got to be something other than the money, because how many great athletes have made millions.
Yeah.
Let me go to Ron. Shout out to Ron Charles. He says the ABL versus the WNBA in the early days. I always felt the ABL's fast-paced play was better than the WNBA, and y'all had deeper talent. They had the TV exposure over the ABL. Did you think both leagues could last?
Well, that seems like the obvious. For me, it seemed like it would be a no-brainer because the ABL was the regular season from October until April, and then the WNBA during the summer. And so ideally, I thought we should just merge and allow players to shift back and forth, like what they're doing now with this Unrivaled 3-on-3 and 1-on-1, I think. But there was so much tension between the two leagues in terms of administration and that, and so I don't think that was ever an option. But that would have been the best way to do it. And then you have all these extra positions for players to just be in the United States. So the ABL, as far as play wise, yeah, the ABL had overall more players, more of the best players. But the WNBA had some talented player. I mean, that Comets team with Cynthia Cooper, Tina Thompson, Kim Perot, who was the other one? Cheryl Swoops. They had some, and then they had players like Lynette Warder. They had top players, Lisa Leslie. That wasn't the issue, but it was more so the whole making us compete against each other in terms of like who should be playing and which league was better. I always said it wasn't about pitting us against each other. We wanted that opportunity. I wanted to play in the WNBA and the NBL at the same time, but that's not how they wanted it to go, and so one had to leave.
Yep.
I mean, do you think at the time, and obviously because it was so early on, it just wasn't enough money for both leagues? Because right now, as you mentioned, on Unrivaled, because there's so much money being poured into the women's league, it's almost, you can come to a compromise, right? Where it's like, hey, we'll play during this time, you guys play during that time, and we'll hit the arenas. But at the time, there really wasn't enough money to probably sustain two leagues. Or do you view it differently?
That's a good question. I kind of view it differently because I think if we could have focused in and made one, well, if you were going to do an extended, that's kind of undoable too, because then your shelf life is going to shrink. It's like the players that were playing in the WNBA and then still going overseas. It didn't make sense because then your career is going to be limited because you're playing. No professional athlete is going to play year round at that level. And so at some point though, I thought that, a combination, just combine the two and do a regular season from, basketball season is from, the fall until the spring. But that just wasn't, I don't think the NBA, and I'm not sure, maybe the ABL didn't want to do something like that, but that would have been the obvious for me to do, but it didn't happen.
What percentage would you say of players went over from the ABL to the WNBA?
That's a good question because when the ABL folded, the big issue then between players was like, why should we let these players come into our league? We were loyal. Now you're going to be kicking out players. And so it was like the whole thing was how many ABL players are we going to take? And I think at the end of the day, I'm not sure of the percentage, but there wasn't a large amount of ABL. The top players, found spots. But overall, the ABL players, including myself, were kind of penalized and, where they were taken or if they were drafted. I wasn't even drafted in that expansion draft. So, but that's because I was a loudmouth as well, too. So, I kind of put myself in a bad position, but, who cares?
Let me go to Anthony's question. Anthony says, Valerie, you won the ABL Finals MVP in 97 and 98 in your mid-30s. How did you do it?
You know what? now it's kind of, you see players in their 30s, even 40s. You look at LeBron James, he's what, 39 now? So it's a little different. Is he? Is he 42?
Or 41?
Yeah. But when I keep saying like I'm a little old person, in my old days, but when I came out, that wasn't happening. By the time you were in your 30s, early 30s, you were pretty much done. And I had just had a kid. So I had a kid 6 months before I joined the ABL. So, and then winning, the finals MVP and championships 2 times in a row, it was just unheard of. How I did it, I don't know, because I know many times I thought I was going to quit. I was playing against kids just coming out of college. Shannon Johnson, she eventually became an Olympian. Katie Smith, Dawn Staley, Shamikwa. Well, no, Shamikwa wasn't in the ABL, but there were Teresa Edwards, Jennifer Azzi, just a number of top players. And I think because I had played so long, my experience, it was like you want older players because they kind of relax and like nothing bothered me. I had a kid, I was nursing, I was up at night, many nights if he was sick. And so when I came to, to play or to practice, it was like a relief for me. And so it kind of set the tone for all the other players. It kind of helped us because it kind of relaxed. Like, younger players get nervous. I had already done everything. And so I think that, and I do believe in like fate and destiny and the universe. And it was my time and I was in the right place at the right time.
How, aside from the performance on the court, how difficult is it to balance that personal life and ball player life? Because the physical, like you said, the physical demands on your body, what you're putting yourself through day in, day out to be ready for a season, for games, but you're still a mom. You're still a woman at the end of the day. You just gotta take care of yourself. How difficult was that balance?
It was extremely difficult because I got married in 95, I want to say. Got married in 95 with another former professional athlete. He also went to the University of Kentucky. We were struggling just with retiring. I mean, that's a whole concept in itself, where you've always been identified as a professional athlete. And then for him to reverse the roles where I was out in the front, because I had retired, we just decided that we wouldn't do the basketball thing anymore. Then this opportunity came up. And so he has to be mom, not mom, but a stay-at-home dad. And it was extremely tough, emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, just working through all that. And I look at some of the interviews that I was doing, they had us as like the example for like the typical, the ideal family. You got your little kid, your husband's coming. And behind the scenes, we were just struggling. And we couldn't say that because, and then I'm like the face of the ABL and, you want to put on this front. And I remember some interviews I'm doing, like, I've got to make sure I'm including him in everything, like he's doing this and that. And in the end, I eventually got divorced, but it was extremely tough. And then the physical aspect of it, I hadn't played, after you have a child, now I know all your ligaments, everything is different. So I was just pushed out there, and every muscle, every tendon, every ligament, every bone on my body, from the bottom of my feet to the top, it was torture. And I can remember, calling my mom sometimes and her just saying, she was excited because, finally I'm back in the States. Everybody can see me play. And she's like, Val, just, bear with it. Things will get better. Things will get better. And sure enough, and I wasn't even starting at the time. I was coming in off the bench. And then when the playoffs started, our starting center got hurt, and so I got pushed out, and everything happened historically.
I'm gonna take Dino Jackson's question, but I just want to let everybody know the QR code you guys are seeing at the top corner of the screen. That is the link to purchase this Valerie Still's book, Still Family, William Still and the Legacy of the Underground Railroad. So make sure y'all click that link so y'all can get that book. Start reading. We need to be reading more anyway. you know. So she got
Exactly. We're
all right,
scholars of the game.
exactly. All right, shout out to D-Nell Jackson. He says, you remember at the time how you felt when Nikki McCray and Dawn Staley jumped to the WNBA? And did those losses affect the ABL?
Okay, now this is my own opinion, right? It's changed somewhat, but I don't know exactly if when we won that first championship, and of course Dawn Staley was a big name then, Nikki McCray. They were always close friends, always from the Olympic days, and so they remained that way the whole time during the ABL. And then eventually Dawn actually had Nikki as an assistant coach and kind of helped her develop her career. And then Nikki, of course, became a great head coach at Old Dominion. And when Nikki was the MVP of that first year. And for me, again, this can be a conspiracy theory. I give a disclaimer. For me, the WNBA had to be able to start to chip away at the ABL. We were in it to win it. And so what do? You go after the top players. And Nikki McCray was that player. Nikki McCray, not only because of her game, but because she was out there. She was, she was a singer. She sang the national anthem. She was a good promotional player to have.
Mhm.
And the difference between, I think, Nikki and Dawn, because Dawn, I'm pretty sure Dawn had the same opportunity to jump ship, right? Because Dawn was that type. I mean, Dawn was phenomenal. But Dawn seems like she's more like she would be loyal no matter what. If she starts something, she's just gonna, she's gonna stick with it. And that's what she did. Nikki, on the other hand, MVP, of course, the WNBA comes after her and they offer her, money. They offer her promotions. So they offer her to be out there. And she did what she should have done. I mean, she took the money, she took it, went to the Mystics. They had the largest crowds. They were breaking records in terms of crowds. And Nikki and I were really good friends. She's like my little sister. We, hung out all the time. And when I eventually get to the Mystics, Nikki and I, we recuperate what we had. But when she left, I was one of the most outspoken players. Like, oh, now here we go. This is the start of the downfall. And it really wasn't that way. Not for it. It shouldn't have been about her and her personal choices, but that's how it was. And of course, that was just the first, niche in the armor, because then that second year after we won, they went after Brian Agler, who was the head coach, and he ends up leaving. And so it was like a chip. Each year they were trying to, you had to get the players and the coaches. And so eventually it did break. But again, I think Dawn, and I'm pretty sure you can ask her, but I'm pretty sure she was probably offered, to come over to the NBA, but she was locked into the ABL.
Did you think that she would become as great as a coach as she is?
Yes. Dawn Staley, she's been badass for so long. And this is the thing. So most people don't know. Dawn played the head coach for the Rage was Lisa Boyer, who is her associate coach. She's been, because Dawn is really loyal like that. So she took Nikki McCray and she took when she started coaching, and Lisa Boyer. Dawn has always been a leader from the Olympic team. She was that point guard, just hard nosed. And so, yes, it did not surprise me. She's a no nonsense, I'm kind of like all over the place. I want to be loose and goosey and all that. But she's always been so focused. So no, it doesn't surprise me. And it doesn't surprise me of what she's doing with South Carolina. And I listen to her players talk about her and the impact she has. And that's just Dawn Staley. She couldn't be any other way.
Let me go to Dion Hoop's page. Dion says, Valerie, you see overseas a lot of your women scored a ton of points, crazy numbers. My question is, how was the competition over there for y'all to have them numbers? Was there one or two Americans to a team rule back then?
Well, it seems like they're crazy numbers, and it seems like it was probably like the competition wasn't as good. But I can tell you this: the top players were going over to Italy during the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and Italy had some of the top players anyway. Italian Mabel Balchi just recently passed away. She was the world. She was named World Basketball Player of the Year, I think, in '78, maybe, or '77. They had, the competition was crazy, and the type of play was so much crazier than it was in the United States. International play, it was more physical, it was quicker. You didn't have to, there weren't as many dead balls where you had to give it to the referee. You were running, and so and on top of that, when I first went over to Italy, you could only have one American on each team, and so that American took the blunt of everything. I mean, if you won, it was the team's victory. But if you lost, no matter, you could have 40, 50 points, it was your fault. And so we always played with that kind of urgency, that kind of, and you never knew when they were going to cut you and send you home. What's that?
So that's why you had that season when you showed us where he was going back, was 55,
Yeah.
60, then was 90, 88, that's why, because they had the pressure on y'all.
Oh no, you had to.
They kind of Joe Jackson situation. Sorry, y'all. Let me go to the Hoop Nation's question. Hoop Nation says, in 1976, the USA team with Lucia Harris that won the silver. Did you watch that team? Harris was a monster drafted by the Jazz. Check out her doc on YouTube called The Queen of Basketball.
I wasn't even born in 1970s. No, I'm just kidding. 1976. Now this is a little history for our scholars there. 1976 was the first year that they allowed women to play. It was a women competition in the Olympics. And so that was the first year the USA put on a team and played against, they came in second against the USSR. It's no longer the USSR. But I did not watch that game. I was a little girl in Camden, New Jersey, didn't know a thing. We probably didn't even have a TV. So, no, I didn't watch that. But from my doctorate in sports humanities, I have certainly studied that team. Pat Head, who ends up being one of the Pat Head Summit, being one of the top coaches, was on that team. Just a phenomenal team. Lucia Harris was a beast. Queen of Basketball was a documentary that was put out a couple years ago. Matter of fact, I interviewed Lucia Harris. You can find it online at the University of Kentucky. We have a special collection with women's basketball, and I do oral histories. But she was one of the ones I was fortunate enough to call her and do this extensive history or oral history with her. If you got a chance to see that, pull it up. And then Ben Proudfoot, who just put out a documentary with Steph Curry. They just won the Sundance. He did that, The Queen of Basketball. And if you are a basketball fan, you should watch that and know who Lucia Harris. When I don't hear her name, in this whole who's the best women's basketball player, I don't even want to talk to you, because Lucia Harris was and still is the real deal. I think she was the first woman to be drafted by the NBA, and she decided she didn't want to do that. She was married, and so she was probably having that same kind of, issues with, how the husband-wife scenario, and she didn't do it. But Lucia Harris, oh my goodness, at Delta State, I don't know if they won. They might have. I think they won. Yeah, they won the championship a few years with Delta State. But Lucia Harris is the real deal.
Let me go. Shout out to Will Gordon. Will Gordon says, Miss Still, as someone who accomplished a lot in the sport, do the players of today pay homage and reach out to yourself or others of your era for guidance, wisdom, and advice? Good question. I like that.
Man, these questions, I know I do like the questions. I mean, if I didn't, I still would answer. But, it's kind of interesting because what I see today, and it's sad, when you don't have a sense of legacy when you're trying to build your own legacy off of what you're doing today, sometimes you have a tendency to want to squash history. You don't want to recognize. And what I see, some like you look at Dawn Staley, the first thing she did, she brought all her former players back in and recognized them, and and she still stays connected with her players now, and they give back to the program. And what it does is it pays homage to those players, so you can build on that and not think that but the coaches nowadays, a lot of coaches want to establish their own legacy. And so sometimes they have a tendency to want to push the players they bring in, whether it's for 1 year or 2 years, at some of the top schools, so they can seem like, okay, this is my program. And so sometimes a player like myself is, you might not want somebody always saying there's Valerie Still that scored, that broke the records there, and so it's really difficult. And I'm hoping that more teams will recognize. I don't know if the same thing is done with men's basketball, but I think it's more like a coach's thing. I think,
would you go to a team in the WNBA if they called you to be that for some of the younger players?
Oh yeah, I was talking when I was talking about college. It seems like college wise, there's this kind of hindrance, but I think, for professional, I mean, at this point, women's basketball, especially professionally, needs a boost. They have to have something that's able to get people interested. And I think what happens in men's sports, and there's an exhibition at the National Liberty Museum I was just at, where they have some of my items on an exhibition with Michael Jordan, with all the big Wilt Chamberlains, Muhammad Ali, Babe Ruth, I mean, Pele, Maradona, these Jim Thorpe. Men have a tendency to know the history.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you might have that little discourse of who's the GOAT, but you still know that and you pay respect. Like Babe Ruth is respected. Jackie Robinson is respected just as well as, any other current player. And I think with the women now, it seems like you would think we never played basketball before. We never played sports. There's not a history. And now that I'm saying that, it reminds me of African-American history in the United States, where there's not a history of African-American, but it's not that. It's just that it hasn't been brought out to the front. So I don't know if that answers the question, but.
No, that's a great point. It's a conversation we've had on the show several times, and our supporters have mentioned it about the women. And when we had Tina Hutchinson on, we talked about that. She had the freshman scoring record for NCAA for 40 years. Juju breaks the record.
Yeah, that's right.
Breaks the record, and there's no mention of it. There's no celebration of the previous record holder. And so there is a disconnect, as you mentioned, for whatever reason. There is some sort of disconnect in the women's game. And it's because of ignorance, right? Because if you don't know any better, like if somebody told you, Babe Ruth wasn't, didn't mention Babe Ruth. Like if you're talking about, the greatest hitters or what, and didn't mention Babe Ruth or, whoever, Sammy Sosa, I don't know. I don't follow sports. But then you would be like, what are you talking about? But because nobody knows, right? Nobody knows Lynette Water. Nobody. It's like, okay, so you guys, just say whatever you want and we'll go along with it.
Because even like in the NBA, like, say a guy like Wilt might not be in. A lot of people won't have him in the GOAT conversation. It'll be like the big three, Kareem, LeBron, or Mike, right? But we still always pay homage to Wilt, to Bill Russell, to guys like Jerry West, to, all of these guys that came before. That they are always paying these guys homage.
Yeah, and you asked somebody to name 5 players from, and I won't even go back that far for women. 5 players from the 1970s. And you have some of the greatest players, Lucille Harris, you have Ann Myers, you have Nancy Lieberman, you have Lynette Water, you have, I could go Pat Head Summit, I could go on, but you go to these, these people that think they're like spitting out women's, history and all that, sports history, and they wouldn't be able to name anyone from the 90s. Well, they might name one or two.
Yeah. But yeah, they're not gonna be able to go down like you just did and go down the whole list.
Yeah, and I could keep going. Yeah.
Let me go to
Or
Janetta.
the Mighty Max. I was just at this. They had the film on the Mighty Max, and Anthony Gargano here. He was the one that wrote that. He was at this event, and he said to me, I did that. I wrote that movie, and he thought I was not going to know. And the Mighty Max, I was like, yeah, I coached with Marion Stanley with the Mystics, and I know Kathy Rush, the coach there, but most people wouldn't even know that. Most sports fans.
Yeah,
that's a fact. Shout out to Janetta Johnson. She's one of the ones that was on me and Eric about making sure got back. So big shout out to you, Janetta. She says, do you feel the ABL is somewhat hidden in women's history? In the 1999 draft of the 50 picks, 35 picks came from the ABL players. The ABL took the W to the next level with legends added to their league. ABL should always be talked about to me.
Janetta, you're right on point there. And one of the things that I was kind of concerned about when I came out in 1990, when the league folded, one of my main concerns was that the history of the ABL would be squashed. No one would know it. And sure enough, like after that draft, and all the timelines, if you go back and if you're a sports, fanatic that collects things, you will not find the ABL listed anywhere in the timeline for the WNBA. And, it was a shame because what I didn't want to happen was for that history to be erased and all those women that sacrificed. And it happened, and is not until recent that, and I don't know why, but I know why, because the truth eventually comes to light. Like, you can't squash the truth. Like, there's no way you can talk about women's professional basketball and not talk about the ABL. But if you bank on people just being ignorant, and I don't say that like in a derogatory way, but ignorant in not knowing something, then you will go along with whatever they put out. And so that timeline was that, women started playing here, then the WBL, the Women's Basketball League, kind of got mentioned, no mention of the ABL. And all these players, like Janetta said, there were 35. I didn't know there were 35 out of 50 go into the WNBA, and no mention of the ABL in their bios. It's like erasing history. Like, how can you have a bio of a Nikki McRae and not say she was the MVP of the ABL? Yeah. But if you go to the media guys, she's not listed that way. Or all those players that went into the WNBA in 1999, not a mention of the ABL. And so it's only been recently, like, you wouldn't believe how many requests I get now to talk about the ABL. And there'll be documentaries coming out, books written. But because now there's not a threat, right? There's, they didn't squash that threat. So let's release some of this, history. And there's nothing you can do about it now. And so, but a lot of women suffered through that. And one of the most tragic stories that I had from the ABL when it folded, I mean, my story was tragic because, I was hoping to come back after I had tore my ACL. I was trying to get back in for the end of the season. Then the league folded. Then I hoped to get into the WNBA, was not drafted, eventually did. But one of the most tragic stories was Trina Price that most people don't. And she played with she got drafted by the Philadelphia Rage. And when that's the ABL, when the league folded, and she was a top player. I mean, intelligent. I think she went to a school in Texas. I should know it better. But because of the ABL folding and her not knowing if she would be drafted or whatever, she ended up committing suicide. And you can pull her up online. I think her name was Trina Price. I don't know if it's Katrina or Trina Price. And those kind of stories, like, to honor her. I don't say that. The only reason I say that is to honor her, because that's how important this league was. That's how important having an opportunity to play professionally. I was going to say it in Italian. In the United States, that's how important it is, because it's not just about the sports. It's about women having opportunities and finally being able to play in the United States and then having the rug pulled from under them for no reason of themselves, but because, people are dictating that. So I think, Janetta, we have to tell the story. And whenever I get the opportunity, I tell the story. I was in it. And so, and I'm really appreciative for, podcasts like these where we can talk about it and openly, and then, we got to solve the issue of why we can't get women's professional basketball to really take on.
And I checked this Katrina Price.
Yeah. Philadelphia Rage, right? And hopefully her story, you know what? I'm kind of curious now. So the Philadelphia WNBA is going to have a team in 2030 in Philadelphia. They'll be talking about the Philadelphia Rage because guess what? History, the truth is always going to surface some way. So will they have that history? Will they have, or will it be a revisionary type of history where everything's all rosy and, this is the Philadelphia Rage that was, and, let's honor her. I mean, she was brilliant, and she had finally reached her dream of playing, professional basketball in the States. So
Ron says Joyce Walker and Latanya Pollard, how good were both of them? And Cheryl Miller said Pollard could shoot shoot it like Curry.
Man, Pollard, I think it's Pollard. Latanya, I have never seen another shooter like her. Never. And you know what? The thing is, if you think about it, the 3-point line wasn't around. She would have busted all kind of records. She would have been on. She is on that level, and just a pure shooter from anywhere. Like Curry, but no, Curry is like her because she was doing that back in the 80s, and so she graduated from Long Beach State. Not a big name in women's basketball now, but just tore it up. And when she went, both her and Joyce Walker, I think Joyce Walker was from LSU. Maybe you can pull that up. I like to recognize, know a little bit more than just a name, but I think Joyce Walker played graduated from LSU. She played at Schio in Italy. Another phenomenal player that nobody knows about, but there's so many of them. Where'd she graduate from?
LSU, 80 to 84.
See there? You guys got to have me on your, it's got to be me so I can, fact check you all when you just talking garbage. No, I'm just kidding.
Shout out to Kyrie. He says, can you talk about Ora Washington for the youngins?
Ora Washington, 1930s. Ora Washington. And Inez Patterson's another name, Philadelphia. So in the 1930s, we all know that basketball was invented in 1891 for men, but women picked it up right away. It was the genteel sport. It was supposed to be for women anyway, because, the men were into football and baseball, and they thought that was like a women's type of sport. And so the women got into it and was playing it better, doing at the same level. By the 1920s, you have black players that aren't allowed to play of course, they're not allowed in college anyway. And so they're forming their own leagues, right? And HBCUs down in the South are some of the best teams around. I mean, you just don't get Bennett College, Tuskegee, Tennessee State. They are like in these black communities, women are balling like crazy. And they come from the South, but they do that great migration. They end up in the North, in Philadelphia or Washington. Just a phenomenal athlete. Like, she's probably one of the top female 19th or 20th century athletes. And she ends up playing with a team in Philadelphia. They start a professional league, really, where people are coming to pay, and they're packing these stadiums. The Philadelphia Tribune, it's sponsored by the local black newspaper, and they are just packing it. Like, people are coming out to see them. They play, a little league because they're not allowed in AAU. They're not allowed in any kind of white leagues. And yet, Ora Washington ends up not only basketball, but she's like one of the greatest tennis players. They play against all these HBCUs in the South. I was just recently at that same exhibition that I was at. One of her trophies is on exhibition there. And if you are a women's basketball follower down, pull her up online. There's a lot more information on Ora Washington, but definitely, thank you for that question.
Hoop Central says, how good was Hortensia? Teresa Edwards says,
where they getting these questions at, man? Just hold on.
Listen, our supporters do their homework, man. That's one thing we would do.
No, just where she's from, right? Nope. See, I like to put you guys.
From Jersey? From Jersey? Hold on, let me check this out, because
give it a little further away, a few thousand miles away. Come on. Look, them fingers are quick. Come on, AI it, man. Okay, no, don't look it up. Let me give you another clue. So if you got just one name, Pele, Maradona, Messi, where are you going? Where do you just Oscar?
Italy?
Oh no,
Spain.
Go ahead, pull it up, man. You are man.
Brazil.
I'm out of here, man.
It's Brazil. I'm sorry, Brazil. It's Brazil. She's from Brazil.
She said, that's okay. See, it's really good to learn. I love when I learn something new. Then you can pull that out when somebody saw Hortensia, and you got to say it right.
The next legend that we bring on the show, I'm gonna bring that out.
Yeah. Just so the one name. Did you notice? I knew who she was. I played against her, but I want to say, did she play with the Comets, or was another Brazilian that played? Did she play with the Comets? WNBA.
Let me see.
I think she played with the Comets, but that girl, if she didn't, she played in Italy for a long time. A pure shooter. No,
shooting guard.
She didn't play with the Comets. Okay, she played overseas then. She played in Italy. I thought there was another. I got her name on the tip of my that played with the Comets.
She did get 2 gold medals with the national team in the world.
But she played professional too, though. I mean, just a pure shooter. And I'll give you another name, Oscar. This is men's basketball. You don't know who he is either. Another pure shooter. They were kind of compared to each other. Oscar Hortensia. They were like just the Brazilians. They forget Steph Curry. They could put it up. In regards to Teresa Edwards, God, Teresa Edwards, I think she won the Olympics 5 times. She was probably one of the first athletes to win the Olympic. I think it was 5. I want to say 5 consecutive times. You can check me on that one. But that girl, that was before. And again, this is not like it is today when all athletes do, professional or elite athletes, that's all they do. Teresa Edwards probably had a day job, and she was doing that. And she ends up being one of the top players. She's, of course, one of the founding players from the ABL. She played with the Atlanta Glory, along with Katrina McLean, who were both on the Olympic team. They were there in Atlanta, but just phenomenal. I mean, she's from the University of Georgia, right? And I never had to guard her. Yeah, I'd say I guarded her in the ABI. I guarded everybody. No, I never had to guard her because she is a guard. She played the 1 or the 2. But I had some highlights against her now that she's not here to defend herself. But no, Teresa Edwards, the real deal. And she was, again, I said she was one of the founding ABL players and made it happen.
Let me go to shout out to Imani. That's another one of your big supporters right there. Her and her dad. Shout out to Imani and her dad. They both are big supporters. She says, my pop says Teresa Edwards at the time Cynthia Cooper was winning WNBA titles and being crowned the best player. He says, while Cooper's one of the best, Teresa Edwards at the same time in the ABL was better than Coop, and that Coop had the TV and exposure of T. Edwards. Does her pops have a point? Is that true?
Your pops, you know, man, you guys are just making me feel so old. Like my pops said, and I was playing with them. But again, the thing I don't want to do is downplay somebody else. Cynthia Cooper is on this level. Teresa Edwards on this level. Cynthia Cooper, the two of them, you can't find two better competitors. You can't find two better defenders. I mean, they were overall players, so they could score, but they would also play defense. I mean, defensive players. And so I hate to compare them. I think we talked about this the last time I was on, comparing the Columbus Quest against the Houston Comets. What would that have looked like? That would have been a fantastic game. That would have been a fantastic series. Who would have won? Of course, the Columbus Quest. That's me. Ask Cynthia Cooper who would have won, and she'd tell you they would. But just phenomenal, Teresa Edwards. And I think, both her and Cooper. I think Teresa Edwards played over in Italy for a while too, maybe a year or two, not that long. Cynthia Cooper played longer in Italy, but definitely trailblazers. They laid the way for women's basketball in the United States right now.
Let me go to Carter. Carter says Maybelle Bucci. Who is she?
Come on, first, the spelling's wrong, and then the way you just murdered that.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I do know she's from Italy. Okay, so now give me my credit on that.
Okay, trip. Okay, we're gonna say Mabel. The E is long. Mabel Bocci.
Okay.
There you go.
You didn't know,
and she was one. Look at
myself. That you didn't know that about me, but
I didn't know you could speak Italian like that.
So, yeah, no, my father is Sicilian, so
get out of here.
Yeah, he's half Sicilian, so I do. My roots is tied to Italy.
Okay, you gotta tighten up your Italian then. Devi parlare un po' di Italiano.
I know how to. It was a ciao bella. See, I'm working on it. I told you I was. Next time you come on the show, I'm gonna have a good 2-3 lines in Italian.
Hey, and you're that's the Italian lover right there. Ciao bella.
You gotta love it. All right,
is that your pickup line? Hey, no, I'm gonna keep giving you a hard time. Is that your pickup line? Ciao bella.
I never use that. I'm saving that for when I go to Italy.
Okay, I got you. Let me get back to Mabel. So we just had a memorial for Mabel, the greatest. I call her the queen of Italian basketball, and she's the godmother of women's professional basketball. In the 70s, in the 60s, she's playing professionally as a teenager in Italy, because Italy has one of the first women professional leagues. In Italy, they have it, and in Japan, there's a league, but Italy is really the big league. And Mabel ends up being probably, I think, the top player in the world. I want to say either 76 or 78. 76 or 78, they win a world championship, Italy. And she ends up not only, just a great basketball player, female basketball player, but she's like a feminist. Like she is really advocating for women's opportunities in sports in Italy and in other fields. After she finishes, she becomes a TV announcer, real strong spirited, real just, she didn't care about what was going on, what if people thought it was acceptable or not. She did what she had to. And she passed away December 4th of last year, 2025. We just did a memorial yesterday. Sunday was International Women's Day, La Festa della Donna in Italy. And we, had a memorial for her. There's a lot of different memorials going on. We're going to do a new tournament in the summer. I'm going over. We're calling it Mabel's Movement, because the Italian league has kind of saw a drop. It's not as popular as it was in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and we want to see that return. And so that's who Mabel was, and still is. She inspires so many of us. And like we were talking about how these names, these trailblazers, a lot of the players today don't even know who she is. And I'm talking about Italian players in the Italian league, because they do have a league.
Yeah.
but hopefully that changes.
Let me go to Dion Hoop's page. He says Tina Hutchinson, our good friend, had the single game season record for a freshman for 40 years. Juju Watkins breaks it, and Valerie, the power that be, didn't invite her to the game to give Watkins the game ball. Ain't that sad? They try to keep some buried.
Yeah, it is. Dion, it's really, but us bringing it back up now and us talking about it, that's how it's going to change. And I keep comparing it to African American history, women's sports history, African American, these marginalized groups, these disenfranchised groups. If we don't bring it up, if we don't insist, no, this is the way it is. This is nothing new. This has been happening before. We see how to be successful at being oppressed, or our stories being suppressed, and so we have to bring it up. And I'm excited about people remembering Tina Hutchinson's name now and bringing it up, and it should come up all the time. And I missed, when did you all interview Tina?
Tina came on a couple of months ago. She came on. I got to check to see the exact date.
Hey,
A couple of months ago, last year.
is
She
that
came,
on? Is it on?
yeah,
Is
it's
it
on
still
YouTube.
on? Okay, I'm
Yeah,
gonna pull that
I'll,
up.
I'll send you the link when we get off the
What
air.
was your takeaway from? What was one thing that you learned that was really you didn't know before?
Well,
This is
I
the
mean,
pop quiz.
yeah. No, because we actually, because I've seen,
It
we
was
doing
like, my
we
dog ate
doing
my homework. I don't know.
a lot, but the
What
fact
what
that
was the takeaway just from your conversation with it? It doesn't have to be a fact or anything. What did you get from that conversation?
okay, so one of the main things that I took away was there never really was an issue between her and Cheryl Miller. There's just a lot of outside and things going on that, and then sometimes when you have outside people and then it can turn into something, but it's really nothing. So that was one of the things. And then I also learned that she is you know very much supportive of this generation of women's basketball players.
And that's a big takeaway too, because I think a lot of people would think that we're bitter, or we're, this didn't happen. Why it didn't happen when I was around? Why couldn't it? But I think women, especially the ones that have been in the game this long and were doing it when it wasn't so cool,
Mhm.
I think we're so happy about it. Like, we are genuinely, that keeps our story alive, but it also validates what we did. It also validates all the sacrifices. We haven't even talked about the experiences that we had to have when we were overseas, all the craziness that was going on. But
Yeah.
when we see this happening, like, that's why, I'll come on a show like this, because I'm excited about this new interest and validating women in sports.
Hmm. And one of the things she would have welcomed and really loved to share that moment with Juju.
That
Had
would have been perfect, huh?
Yeah, and
Why
that
didn't they do that?
and that's the thing when we talk about bridging the gap. A lot of the times, it's the organizations that have the ability to do that and don't do that. Like how we spoke about the WNBA not really mentioning the ABL as a part of that
Yep.
history. So now when you have a record that stood for 40 years and the
Yeah.
person whose record it is still alive, and you don't bring her out for that moment, you
Yeah.
waste the opportunity to connect the past and the present.
And a
And
lot of that I put on coaches. I
yeah.
put on the coaches, because
Mhm.
the players, right? They're young. Nobody wanted to know about history, but the coaches, athletic departments, the sports information people, but a lot of them are so young they don't even know, and they're being, they just go from place to place. But these coaches, instead of trying to build your own name, your own legacy, like I said, what Dawn Staley did. The first thing she did, and I think Kim Mulkey did the same thing. Like, and Kim Mulkey has I forget her name now. I'm having a senior moment. That's on her staff. Bring in your players and have them be on your staff. Even if, like, Kim Mulkey didn't care. She wasn't from LSU, but she made sure I'm going to have a player from LSU on my staff because she deserves. What's her name? Simone is coming. Simone, awesome player, phenomenal. And Dawn Staley did that. Reached out to all her old players and recognized them for what they did. You know, that goes a long way.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Simone, what's her name? Simone. She played with the Lynx.
Simone Augustus.
Yes. I knew you knew that. Thanks for telling me. You are so, man. You are like on it. You gonna see. Hey, Trip, this is gonna become the show that you got to watch instead of all those, women basketball players and athletes doing the podcast. They're gonna come to you. You're gonna be the show for women's basketball.
We're gonna have all the legends say they ain't gonna have no choice.
Then you'll be saying, who was Hortensia? There you go. Arcade was the one.
Yeah,
she done pulled it up. My girl Monty. That's who I was talking about. That girl was bad news too. Oh my goodness.
Janet Arcane?
Yes. No, her and Cynthia Cooper, I bet they got into some fights in practice. Cynthia Cooper would fight her own players I remember one game, I don't know if I told you this, but Cynthia Cooper and Spoon, I played with Spoon a year in Italy. And those two had the same kind of fiery personalities. And, most of the Americans got along because, we were a long way from home. Come on, we'll play this game. Them two got into a fight. I think Spoon punched her or something. Cynthia Coop might have punched Spoon. And then Spoon chased her down. And I was like, come on, guys, man, we're in this together. Can't we just. But yeah, it was Arcane's another one that most people won't even know, but she was fundamental in them winning that championship.
Yeah, Nation says Cynthia Cooper. Yeah, in the documentary, actually, the sport is.
I haven't seen it.
And yeah, she spoke about it in the documentary how they used to go at it. So
I'm telling you, Coop, legitimately crazy, and she'll say it but that's how she was so successful. And Cooper's talent. I mean, between Cheryl Miller and Cynthia, I almost take Coop because Coop could do so much. And she, like, left-handed, right-handed, the Euro step, all that. She had it back in the set. The Euro step is now new. But she was doing back in the 80s and the 90s. It was just crazy.
Let me go to Hoops Hype. Hoop Hype says, Val, is it up to the old school players to keep y'all legacy alive? I wonder why the WNBA don't invite all of the legends to like the All-Star weekend like the men do. A lot of these female hoopers don't know their history.
That is a good point. And that's one of the reasons in 2018, I wrote my memoirs. I'm probably the first elite athlete to, like, I didn't get a ghostwriter, wrote it on my own. I'm going to do a new edition to it. But I felt it was important enough to actually write it. And so sometimes, you can complain all you want. You can say this and that, but do something. And so I said, in order to keep this legacy alive, in order to have it documented right, I'm going to write my own story. And it came out in 2018. And so it's important for us not only to wait on other people to recognize us, and that goes with your own history, your family history, that runs through my family. William Still documented the Underground Railroad and published, the official history on Underground Railroad in 1872. My great-great-grandfather published his autobiography in 1877. We have to, oral history is good because, that's, if you think about the Bible, it came from oral history. So you have to have the oral history, but you got to document it. And you can't wait for people to recognize you because they're going to forget you. Just, 2 days after you're not here anymore, you probably, your name, they might do a few memorials and then you're done. But a book, I don't have it right. I usually have it right here near me. my great-great-grandfather's book. I have an original copy of that. I have an original copy of William Still's 1872 Underground Railroad, which tells the true history and not the history that was revised and then made the official story that Quakers were the ones that, were running the Underground Railroad. William Still wrote, no, it was people like Harriet Tubman, people like William Box Brown, people like Jane Johnson, Lear Green, that were taking it into their own. It was Black freedom fighters, self-liberators that was freeing themselves. And so we got to write. We got to document the stories.
Yeah.
I'll get off my pedestal now. And every now and then you just got to kick that soapbox. The ancestors are peeping in my ear, and I got to make sure I keep them at the forefront.
Let me we're gonna start to wrap this thing up, but I do want to get you to speak on your time with the Washington Mystics playing in the WNBA. How was that experience different from playing in the ABL?
That's a great question, and I'm kind of I'm honored that I can speak on that from personal accounts because I was involved in both of them, and there was a drastic difference. The ABL was more like a family. It was, and for me, after being gone for so many years, finally playing in front of family, it was, and friends, it was altogether different. And it was more, the leagues tended to be more about the players, whether it was healthcare, whether it was, you identify as he, she, her, him, they, whatever, we embrace you, be you, do you. It was all about that. It was about decent salaries. It was about being real basketball during a regular season. It was all about uplifting and empowering players. And the WNBA, for me, the takeaway I got from that was that I got to play in some of the most iconic arenas. Like when I played at the Madison Square Garden. Come on, you can't. Here I am, like on my last leg, a female. It's like this can't be real. Or the Staples Center, or I was playing in all these, and that being a just as a kid watching those games and seeing the Dr. J's or Wilt Chamberlain or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and playing like in those locker rooms and all. And so that was extremely cool. Now the WNBA, when I got there, it was all about business. Like the ABL fans would come down on the court while we were playing. They'd give us candy, Skittles, Twizzlers, Coca-Cola. We'd be drinking, and especially with the Columbus, we were just off the chain. That wasn't happening in the WNBA. It was like, okay, you're going to do this. Yeah. It's going to be official. Your mom could be sitting right up in the stands. She wasn't coming down on the court. And so it was way more official. The other thing that I got to experience that was super, just amazing. First, when I got to the Mystics, the second time, because I had played there for one summer, and then I finished my degree because I hadn't finished my college degree. I came back, and Michael Jordan was the president of the Wizards. Okay. And so he would come through. I mean, he wasn't going to just come through and hang out with us, but we would see him come through, practice, and he'd wave or whatever. And his driver would be in, like my son would be in the family room while I would be practicing. And Michael Jordan was training to come back. That was his comeback. He was going to play again. And so he would have private workouts, and his driver would wait in the family room, and my little son, they would be interacting. But, for me, that was seeing a Michael Jordan was, I didn't have to play or score any points just to experience that. And then I got the position. I coached the Orlando Miracle. They don't have a team there anymore, but Pat Williams was the general manager, and who was with the Philadelphia 76ers back when I was a kid. I don't know if you remember Pat Williams. He's passed away. I got his book that he was right. He was like the motivational that kind of motivational guy, cool guy. And then Dr. J was the president of the Magic.
Mhm.
So I got a chance to like interact, talk with Michael, Dr. J. It was like my childhood dream was to play with Dr. J, but that wasn't, it was going to be something different. So I tell kids, when you're dreaming, you never know what the dream is going to look like, because that's what a dream is. But
Yeah.
if you really believe in it and you never quit, it'll come to fruition. It'll manifest itself. And so my whole, apart from being a part of, the WNBA, and I can say I'm a part of it. It's this whole thing of, my dreams as a kid being realized in a way that I didn't think it was going to be. And I'm here today. Now, when people come, they want to know about the ABL and the WNBA. I have a hands-on experience with it. And both of the experiences were, fantastic. And I think long-winded. I think the takeaway is that no matter what's going on in your life, like when I didn't get drafted with the WNBA, it was devastating. I was like just heartbroken. And now it's like life. Once everything's said and done, you only remember the good parts. Like I remember like the WNBA, it's a good feeling for me because I got those memories there. That was long.
Squeezy said the Orlando Miracle, is that with Carolyn Peck coaching with Pee Wee and Keisha Sales? I love the Orlando Magic.
They've been researching.
Recognize who you're dealing with.
Hey, he's close though, because Carolyn Peck and her claim to fame, right? Okay, I'm gonna pop quiz, Trip. Pop quiz. Get your fingers ready. Look at I see you.
Why you gotta do this?
Carolyn Peck. You know who Carolyn Peck is, right? Nope. There he goes.
No, I'm talking about what night she played, but she also was a commentator too.
Okay. That's close. What else was she though?
Listen, see, now you come on. Now you asking so many questions.
Come on, Trip. I'm gonna give you a clue. So when Dawn Staley won her championship, head coach. Look, I see you. You're like, oh, you can't.
Like
put it on your AI, Siri.
I'll make sure everything is copacetic over here.
Carolyn Peck. She was the first African American woman, I think, to win a championship, collegiate championship. Right? Which school? I'm giving you some clues here.
Hold on, it's not Purdue, was it? Was it Purdue?
It's Purdue. Very good.
Oh,
very good.
Come on, now listen. Now, come on. Yep. See, Squeeze. So good looking Squeeze.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Look, Squeeze coming.
Yeah.
Hey, your cheat sheet is right here.
Yeah, the supporters of my cheat sheet. They're gonna pull it up.
Look. She coached Purdue. She was the first Black woman as a head coach to win. I go even more further to really drive you crazy. Who was the coach for Purdue before she? No, I'm not going to go there. It was Lynn Dunn, but because that was Lynn Dunn's team, really. And then, never mind. But the question was, so Carolyn Peck, she wins the championship with Purdue, and then she goes with the WNBA. And Pee Wee Johnson, right? How do I know Pee Wee Johnson? Pee Wee Johnson won 2 championships with me with the ABL with the Columbus Quest. Phenomenal player. When I came into the ABL, Pee Wee Johnson was just graduating from which college, Trip?
That Pee Wee Johnson graduated from which college, you said? Hold on.
Where's Squeeze? Help him out.
Get in the chat.
Pee Wee Johnson. Come on, man. I'll give you a clue. Dawn Staley.
Oh, South Carolina?
Yay! She graduated from but most people wouldn't know that. But Pee Wee Johnson had just graduated from South Carolina when the ABL started, and she was unknown. Nobody knew who she was.
But she did play in the WNBA though.
Then she played in the when the ABL folded, they sent her to Orlando. She went to Orlando. They split the Columbus Quest team up because they didn't want the whole team to be on one team, so they sent her. And Keisha Sales, who did Keisha Sales play for?
See now, come on, now, y'all gonna have to pull us up.
Come on. Okay, I'll give you a clue. top women's basketball program today. Number 1 program. Number 1 team today.
I feel like I should just say Kentucky because
No, Kentucky women's. Who was the number 1 team,
UConn.
right?
It was UConn.
Yeah.
UConn. That's right.
Keisha Sells played for UConn.
That's right.
So
UConn, yes.
I just have to lay that down. So now all your people know. So Carolyn Peck, the year that she leaves the WNBA, the spot becomes open as head coach. And so I'm in Orlando doing something, and they hire Dee Brown. And you know who Dee Brown is, right?
Oh, come on now. Come on. Everybody know who Dee Brown is.
Dee Brown. With the pump, he had the little Reeboks that he would pump them up, and then he'd do the slam dunk.
With the eyes
Yeah,
closed.
there you go. I didn't know. You scare me.
No, come on now.
But so they hired Dee Brown as the head coach, and I'm in Orlando, and one of my friends from Kentucky is living in Orlando. She's like, Val, you should get on that. You should go and get the position there. And so they hired me as an assistant coach, and that's how I coached Pee Wee. Then Pee Wee Johnson is she's the point guard, and Keisha Sells, who is phenomenal. Pull up Keisha Sells when you have a chance. And then you have Katie Smith. I see Squeeze got another one.
Yeah, Katie Smith.
Katie Smith was the other legend. So Katie and Pee Wee came out at the same time. When the league started, they had just graduated from college. And they were the 2 Columbus Quest, like franchise players, even though they weren't well known. But Katie Smith, who did Katie Smith play for? And who did they beat for the national championship?
Well, she played for Ohio State. Hey, that's
yes.
She played
yes.
for Ohio State. So I'm
who
did let that be known right now that she played for Ohio State.
That I'm impressed.
Yeah. So that is.
And who did they beat?
Oh, who they beat? And the hold on, let's see because now
who was the first woman to have a signature shoe?
Okay, so it wasn't Sabrina Ionescu though. That's
no, this is in the 90s.
But I'm just saying. No. I'm just saying.
Look, hey, Trip, you were sweating right now. You like,
listen, I ain't got enough tabs on my computer to be looking up all these.
Cheryl Swoops. Didn't Cheryl Swoops win the championship? There you go. There we go. Now, good thing you got your posse with you, because man, you were feeling this one.
The gang is here. We here.
Sweating. You didn't study last night.
Listen, this is a pop quiz. I didn't know we was gonna have to do all these legends.
No, you. Whenever I come on, it's gonna be a pop quiz.
All right.
And look, they even got 47 points. They. But no, it's all funny because nobody was paying attention to women's sports that way. But Katie Smith, she ends up just phenomenal. She wins with, I think, the Detroit Shock. And matter of fact, look, there's my Katie Smith 2006 championship signed. Katie.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And they're getting ready the Detroit Shock are getting ready to have their team back in. And there's Nikki McCray. I got all my girls that hang out with me. Cynthia Cooper. I got all my girls. They hang out with me every day. But just, to have a little fun with it, that, I think people want to learn. And so when I get the opportunity, it's, make it fun, make it, something enjoyable. And I was fortunate to say that I played with these phenomenal players, these young players that ended up being just crazy.
Ron says,
"Well, I don't want to talk about no Katrina McClain. I still have nightmares about that girl." I have to go see my therapy after this. My therapist after this question. Katrina McClain and Teresa Edwards were the franchise players for the ABL's Atlanta Glory. And that girl, she was a power forward. She played center some, but just phenomenal. Dominated, just powerful. What else can I say? The real deal. She was on that 1996 Olympic team as well. and a no nonsense. Her and Teresa, I was kind of like the goofy type, like to play, keep it, kind of light. Once they stepped on the court, it was like, man, elbow here, I'm like, I'm a little old lady. Come on, take it easy on me. So, but yeah, another GOAT.
And then let me take this last question, and then we're gonna get to the final
Ah,
thought. Ron says, I remember Carolyn Jones was dominant in the ABL. Can you talk about her?
okay, Trip. Another pop quiz.
Right. Let me hear what you got.
Hey, Trip. Okay, so who did Carolyn Jones play for in the ABL? She did.
Oh, in the ABL? Oh, she played for...
Who'd she play for in college and then the ABL? Since you're on the college page right now.
Yeah, she's... Let me see. Hold on, because now you're going into the history.
Yeah, man.
And I just want to make sure we get everybody get they just due. Wait, hold on. We're not talking about Carolyn Jones that played for Auburn. You talking about that Carolyn Jones?
Mm-hmm. But who did she play for in the ABL?
Oh, in the ABL?
I'm gonna give you a clue.
Let me see. Hold on.
It's a women's basketball college powerhouse. We spoke about them earlier. They're number one in
South Carolina?
In the country. They're number one.
Play for UConn?
Well, UConn, but the ABL. What was the ABL team that was in Connecticut?
Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now. The ABL.
See if I have something around here with.
I'm tell you right now. She was drafted by the New York Liberty, though. Okay.
Yeah, that's after the ABL, but she played in the ABL. We talking about ABL.
Well, listen, they ain't got all the facts up here like that. Okay. Man. Yeah.
She played for the New England Blizzard with Jennifer Rosati. Jennifer Rosati was the big name from UConn, and Carolyn Jones played. I believe that she played with the the New England. You pulling it up? New England Blizzard. It was called. And they were a tough team. Carolyn Jones was a scorer, phenomenal. Just another one of those players that nobody remembers besides Ron Charles, is it?
Yeah, because Ron got all the details, man.
I like paying respect to all these players. They love getting their names heard and being remembered.
They did 3 years, from 96 to 98, 3 seasons rather.
Who's that?
Casey Jones was the head coach of the New England Blizzard.
I was gonna say I didn't want to go any further and to say who was the coach that had the Hall of Fame coach, right?
Now you ain't got to ask me because I done told you. Now it's Casey.
I'm impressed. Trip, you scared me. You scared me.
Oh my goodness! Hold on, let me see. We got
that New York Mets. Is that New York Mets cap? You gotta put Giants. You got to put the New York Liberty on. If you having a women's basketball player, go get yourself a. See how I got my New York Becky Hammonds. You got, if you're gonna be interviewing, you gotta wear the gear.
I'm gonna get.
Come on, you want me to send you something? I'll give you ABL something.
I want it all. Yeah, what you got? Send me some hats or something. I'm gonna give some. No, because you know what? I wanted to get the Liberty hoodie. In the championship hat, but when I went to order it, it was like sold out. So I'm gonna get some stuff. I'm gonna get some swag.
Get your cap. And when you're doing the podcast with the guys and all, have that on.
All right, I'm gonna definitely do that because I gotta do that because we had just had and I don't want to. I don't know. I'm gonna tell you right now. We had just had the CEO from the Liberty, Kia Clark. She had showed us some love, so I definitely want to make sure I get some Liberty gear this year.
Why did you ask her for some gear?
She was doing an interview for a friend of mine was shooting the interview that she was doing, so he's working on linking me with her so we can try to bring her on the show. And then that's when I'm here with
hit her up. Yeah.
Some Liberty gear because we rep for the ladies hard, so we definitely need some Liberty gear. So I'm
Trip. You ain't too proud to beg, okay?
I'm not at all. Not at all. Please.
Don't be too proud to beg.
Listen,
Look.
my cousin, she played for NYU. She's a coach now. She was the junior Knicks coach of the year like 2 years ago. So when she, Jordan Brand be sending her stuff, I'll be right over there picking up what I
There
can
you
get.
go.
So I ain't listen, ain't no shame in my game.
Yeah.
I'm
And
I
the other thing on a serious note, though, because I just read this, and I don't know if I don't own a TV, but I do a lot of reading, and the status of women's basketball, pro basketball, right? I saw where like that 3-on-3 unraveled, right?
yeah.
In Philadelphia, they broke the record for attendance, and at the Xfinity Arena, and then they had the championship, I think, last week. I don't know who won, but I've read this article that even though they had good game attendance, like the ratings are down. So women's basketball, like I thought it was just a boom. And they're talking about the Caitlin Clark effect, that most people are watching it because of Caitlin Clark. And so what we have to do, because it can't just be about Caitlin Clark, I'm glad for her, I'm happy, that's awesome. But we have to make sure that we support it and that we honor it and let people know that women deserve. And I'm not talking about money. I don't care about how much people are being paid, because that's not gonna. It doesn't really matter. It does, but it doesn't. But it's more so that women should have to have an opportunity to play professionally in the United States in a respectable league, and because the level of play is very good. I saw some of that. I don't watch 3-on-3. I'm like, who's going to watch 3-on-3? I don't want to watch 3-on-3 or 1-on-1. But I was totally impressed. I mean, it was, and maybe it's because I watched some highlights. Somebody sent me a few highlights, but it was impressive. So we have to. That's why I kind of laugh about you wearing gear, but we have to do it.
No, listen, I'm gonna get some Liberty gear. Let me see.
And wear it when you're talking about the guys.
I will. Listen, I love.
No, I'm gonna be watching you. I'm gonna be stalking on you now. I'm crazy.
You know I'm gonna order the hoodie. I'm gonna order a new hoodie, and I'm gonna order the hat to go with it. And I'm gonna wear it, and I'm gonna text you the next time you watch the show that night. So you won't be saying nothing.
Right. I'll give you a little pop quiz.
Hoops Nation says, Val, with USA basketball, do you feel it's favorites? Like when you tried out in '84, was Cheryl and Lynette the faves?
It's favorites. I'm not sure of the question. Do you feel it's favorites? Like when you tried out in '84, like, do they have their favorites?
Yeah,
like,
that they
is it like kind of political?
Yeah,
I think in every aspect of life, there's an element of nepotism or favoritism, and at that level, those last spots, right? I mean, the first 10 spots, I mean, and with the level of play right now, you can kind of mix it up some. But I think in '84, right, I was like in the last Cheryl Miller was going to be, she deserved every ounce of, if it was favoritism. Lynette deserves every ounce of favoritism. That's not favoritism. I mean, come on. Those last spots, it just depends on how you were able, if you were going to be like, if they thought you couldn't go with the program, and because it's a whole political system there. And, Pam McGee, me and Pam McGee were up for that last spot. Pam McGee, did she deserve it? Was she favorite? I don't think so. But either one of us could have went either way. Pam is a great player, and she deserved to be on that team. So that might be in a roundabout way of saying whatever. But I think in all these kind of scenarios, there's a sense of, you're going to pick, especially those last spots are going to be spots where, where it doesn't really matter, and you can pick somebody that you like. Yeah. I think.
Let me go back to Ron. Ron says, the 1984 team, Janice said it was some players on the team she didn't know, but she thought Georgianne Wells should have made the '84 team.
That I'm not sure. Okay, Janice, is that Janice Arcade or is that Janice Lawrence? I'm not sure which Janice, because
Ron,
Janice
Ron,
Lawrence
put
was
in the comment which one you're referring to.
but
Which Janice?
George Ann Wells for the 84 team, she hadn't been in that the cycle of, because what they do with the national team, which they're doing now, right? They have probably about 20 to 25 players that they'll rotate like in between the 4 years. Like I played at the World University Games that was in between the 80s and 84, and I played in Jones Cubs, and they kind of from that pool of players, then they kind of wind them down. But I don't remember Georgianne Wells. I know her. I believe she was the first female player to dunk in a basketball game. I've never seen her play, but she had to be phenomenal if she did do that. But I can't ever remember. I don't remember her being at the tryouts. But again, I'm old, so my memory's not great. But I think the team that made the 84 team, it was a good team. They won they won the Olympic gold medal that year.
Yeah, and she was the first woman to dunk in a college basketball game.
Hey Trip, did you see how I've learned how to be more, I've I'm not going to step on people's toes anymore, because that kind of, it comes back around and bites you in the, where at. So but she must have tried out for the 84 team as well.
Let me see. There's one more about 84 up here. Okay, let me. All right. Ron says, I think Tina Hutchinson felt that the powers that be didn't want her to get in Cheryl Miller's way, according to her.
That could be it. And I'm telling you, a lot of people won't say that because, you don't want to step on people's toes, and you don't want to squash your opportunities. Like I had said I had a falling out with Kay Yao when I played on that World University, which I got I still keep it on my wall. But I had a falling out, not a falling out, but I was real honest with the way I felt the whole situation went. And it didn't matter. I was just one of the peons out of tons of great players. And you do have to learn how to get along within a system. And so if I could have shoulda, coulda, woulda, I did what I had to. I didn't make the 84 team, but I did a lot of other things that were amazing, and I wouldn't want it any other way. So, Tina Hutchinson probably, Cheryl Miller was going to be in there.
No matter what, it was going to be on the team.
So. And I don't know if she played because I think she was hurt. You can check that out. I think she was hurt, but from what Cheryl did, she still belonged on that. I can,
If anything, somebody else would have had to lose their spot, but it wouldn't have been Cheryl.
No. I mean, I think they won the championship 82, 83, and 84, maybe.
So yeah.
Did they win 3 years? I think they did.
So she was going to be there regardless. Oh, and Ron said he was talking about Janice Lawrence.
Okay, Janice. Oh, another bad. Oh, that girl. I got nightmares from her too in Italy. She followed me to Italy. Whew, but phenomenal player. Louisiana Tech won championships over in Italy with Vicenza. Phenomenal. So much respect for her.
And then let me see. Imani says, Miss Valerie, still, it was an honor to have you on twice. Learned a lot. Trip, keep bringing the legends on. I will continue to bring the legends on because we support all the legends.
The women. She's talking about the women legends.
Well, that's what we've been bringing on. We've been bringing all the legends on this past.
I know. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, we're gonna keep bringing them on. Like we love hearing these stories, and we love giving you all the opportunity to tell your stories. So we're gonna keep doing that. That's that goes without saying.
And we appreciate it.
Ron said Cheryl played in 84 and 86, and then she got hurt in 86 after college.
Oh, okay. So yeah, if she got hurt in 86, she deserved to be on that 84 team.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
All right, let me one more time before we get to the final thought. I just want to remind everybody, if you haven't already, that QR code in the top corner. That is the direct link to purchase Miss Valerie Still's book. Y'all go out and support me. Y'all support us. Y'all go out and support Miss Still. She done brought a lot of joy, a lot of highlights to a lot of people, and she's still bringing that, through her new career after basketball, and being an author. So y'all go out and support. Click that QR code. Y'all go buy that book, read that book, and then let us know what y'all think about the book, and we'll let Miss Valerie Still know how y'all think about the book. All right, so just click that QR code. Miss Still, you want to give us a final thought, please?
I sure will. Brought you a lot of stress, though, hun.
You definitely
That's just
did. I would welcome anytime.
But now you got all that right there. Now you're gonna be spewing that knowledge out to people. Like they'll be like, whoa, because once it's in there, it's like
next legend come down. Oh yeah, I'm on.
But all jokes aside, I really appreciate you inviting me and respecting women's sports and women's basketball in particular. My big thing now is my book. I really believe that legacy and carrying on legacy, you have to write it. It has to be documented. And that's what I do. I do the hard work, just like I did the hard work when I was playing. So I'm going in doing all these archives. African-American genealogy is difficult because you have to find ancestors with only a first name and in the wills of other people listed with animals and property that they're giving to other people. But it can be done. And it honors, just like we do today, honoring these people that put out, that sacrifice for us to be where we are. All these players that we mentioned today, if it wasn't for them, the players today, the Angel Reeses and the Caitlin Clarks and the Tessa Johnsons and all of them wouldn't be doing what they're doing if it wasn't for these players that did it without any recognition. So I really appreciate you and Eric for bringing on women legends and respecting the game. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Miss Valerie Still, we thank you so much for not only joining us but coming back when our supporters, felt like they didn't get enough time.
Them.
So we definitely appreciate you. It's just will not be the last time that we have you on Real Fans Real Talk. And we're gonna still continue to throw the QR code up. So our supporters, if they didn't get a chance, they'll still be able to go out and get that book. And we're gonna continue to have the legends on and tell these stories because of the love that we've gained the last couple of years for women's sports, but women's basketball in particular, and being a vessel to bridge that gap. It means a lot to us. So we appreciate you and we salute you for everything that you have accomplished in your career and everything that you will accomplish in your career. Eric, he had to step out early tonight, but his sentiments are the exact same. We both appreciate you so much. And with that being said, make sure you guys are following us on all social media: Instagram, Twitter at Real Fan Talk, Facebook.com/Real Fans Real Talk. And of course, subscribe to that YouTube channel, youtube.com/For the Fans Productions. And if you're not in New York City and you can't watch us on TV on Thursday nights from 8 to 9 p.m. on Verizon 43, do not worry. All you have to do is go to the website, realfansrealtalk.com, click that red button on the homepage, and you can watch from anywhere in the world. And make sure you guys subscribe to the two best podcasts moving. That's the Real Fans Real Talk and the Sanchez Show podcast. Eric and Will should be on this Wednesday night, so make sure you guys are locked in for that. And with that being said, now for myself, Trip Young, my co-host Eric Sanchez in his absence, and of course the legend Valerie Still, we up out of here. Peace.
This is Deion Grant from the New York Giants, Super Bowl champ, and you're watching Real Fans Real Talk.
Live from the can. Vibe the can.
This is Real Fans Real Talk. Real Fans Real Talk. We as real as you thought. Real